All right, thanks for tuning into this video. Coming at you Super Bowl morning and big 49ers news on Super Bowl morning as Deebo Samuel has reportedly asked the 49ers to be traded. 49ers have granted permission to his representation, Tory Dandy, to seek a trade. So that news comes from Adam Schefter of ESPN from the Super Bowl in New Orleans, where, of course, later today, the big game will take place. But from a 49ers standpoint, it's about Deebo Samuel today because we've kind of gone through this thing the past season where he wasn't playing well. He didn't look like the same guy. A lot of questions about his future with the organization. And what Deebo Samuel brought to the table for the 49ers was that he was rarely brought down by the first guy who tried to tackle him. And then there was a long stretch of games there where it seemed like it was only the first guy who needed to bring him down or needed to be there to tackle him. And then he did show up later in the season. And then, with the question swirling about Deebo Samuel, his contract is such that the way it's set up is it would lend itself to a post June 1 release, very similar to Javon Hargrave. The difference being with Javon Hargrave, I think the 49ers have, obviously they've already determined that that's the path that they would take with him. And they expressed that to him that he would be a pre or a release would be available to be out there in the open market at the start of free agency, but for salary cap purposes, it would be designated a post June 1 release. With Deebo Samuel, I think the 49ers really kept an open mind about it. And I would think that in a perfect world, uh, Deebo Samuel would be on the team in 2025 and asked, in fact, I asked Kyle Shanahan about Deebo Samuel right after the season was over. So their season ended on a Sunday. I asked him on the Wednesday about Deebo Samuel and his status with the team. And the first thing he said was that he's under contract for next season. And then I asked if he expected Deebo Samuel to be back on the team. And his answer was yes. A good player has done a ton for this organization, and we're not in the business of letting good players out of here. Well, Deebo Samuel, I think, kind of makes it easy on the 49ers because anytime that the 49ers would have been parting ways with him, it would have been a difficult decision. Deebo Samuel has a very good relationship with Kyle Shanahan. Those two talk regularly. And so I think, by Deebo Samuel saying that he wants to be traded, I think that kind of removes the 49ers out of that situation where it would have been a difficult decision. Now I think it becomes an easy decision. And what Deebo Samuel told Adam Schefter, according to ESPN, he said it was a hard conversation to have with Kyle because of the relationship we have, but I have to do what's best. I'm more than thankful for the 49ers giving me the opportunity of a lifetime, but now I think it's best that we find another team. And so, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. All these relationships in the NFL, there's kind of a timestamp on them, and at some point it expires, and maybe that time has come for Deebo Samuel. Now, also, we've been down this road before with the 49ers and a player asking for a trade. It happened with Deebo Samuel when he was up for his contract after what was it, the 2020 season, 2021 season. Um, he requested a trade while the 49ers and him were in contract talks. He ends up signing the big money deal and frankly hasn't produced at a really high level to warrant that money. But the 49ers, I think at that point I think that was 2021. It was a drafted 2020, 2022. And so at that point, they really didn't know why exactly Deebo Samuel was upset with the organization, but he did request a trade. 49ers did not trade him. And it was the same sort of thing where Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch said, I'd have to be crazy to sign to trade Deebo Samuel to get rid of him. They're not in the business of losing good football players. Kind of the same tack that he took when I asked him in early January about Deebo Samuel. So they stuck with it. They signed the big money deal. And then last year, remember, another wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk. He requested a trade. In fact, the 49ers had several trades kind of in the works with not only in the works, but agreed upon to send Brandon Ayuk to other places, but there were places where he didn't want to go. And so ultimately, none of those deals happen. And what happens, the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk sign a long term contract extension. So now, where are the 49ers with Deebo Samuel? He has 1 year left on his contract. And so some of the particulars of this are a little bit sticky. If they trade or cut him before June 1, that would mean $31 million in dead money. And so currently he's scheduled on the salary cap figure to be around $15 million. So that would bump up to $31 million of dead money. Now, if it's a post June 1 release or trade, then it would account for 10 million dead money this year, but it would actually be a cap savings of $5 million because, as I mentioned, he is scheduled currently to make $15 million on the salary cap. So I don't know exactly how this thing is going to work out. If a team wants Deebo Samuel, I can't imagine they'll give up a whole lot for him. I would think a day three pick in the upcoming draft. um, he has 1 year left on his contract. And because, in essence, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers kind of invented Deebo, the way Deebo started playing, being that the wide back where he's a receiver, he can line up in the backfield, he can take the jet sweeps, he can do all the thing that Deebo does. I mean, how many times now have I gone to NFL scouting combines and written stories about, who's the next Deebo out there, and college players saying that they pattern their game after Deebo Samuel. So it also, there's a lot of wear and tear. And Deebo Samuel hasn't had the reputation for staying in the best of shape during the off season. So, at his age, are his best days behind him? Yes. But is there a team out there that would want him for a year or two? We shall see. Probably not at a big cost, because I think once the 49ers decide that, that his time is over and it's time to move him, he's been so valuable to the 49ers that I think a lot of teams would say, well, if the 49ers don't want to keep him, then why would we pay a price to keep him? Where Deebo Samuel kind of takes the 49ers off the hook on this one is because he has requested that trade. So with the relationship that he has with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers organization as a whole, it would probably be seen around the league as a positive that the 49ers would be granting Deebo Samuel's wish to find him a new location. So, throughout this offseason, probably late in the season to this point, Super Bowl Sunday, I was of the opinion that Deebo Samuel would be back with the 49ers. And part of that, of course, is because, we don't know, or the 49ers don't know exactly what Ricky Pearsall brings to the table. Brandon Ayuk is recovering from the torn ACL and some other stuff in there. So there's no guarantee that he'll be ready and playing at a high level once the season starts. Jawan Jennings is back, and he's, essentially 1,000-yard receiver. So he's the one given, I think, in that receiving core. So I did think that they would probably just need Deebo Samuel on the team to help that room through at least the early portion of the season when there were so many question marks. So now I think the 49ers are, in the market for a wide receiver, whether that comes in the draft. I wouldn't think that they would take a wide receiver in the first round of the draft, or maybe even not even the second round, but also, probably looking for some guys that can contribute in free agency as well. Probably looking for Jacob Cowing to take that next step. But, as of right now, my thought process was that Deebo Samuel probably would be on the team in 2025. Now, with this latest development where he's requested a trade and believes and feels like it's run its course with the 49ers for both him and the team. Now it looks not certain, but I would say likely that Deebo Samuel will not remain with the 49ers for the 2025 season. So how it looks, how it goes about, what the 49ers decide to do, what teams are interested. All that remains out there. But that's the big development for the 49ers here on Super Bowl Sunday. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe, leave a like, comment on what you think about the situation. And that is it for now.